Hey, I got a new video to do. Sorry. This one is pretty appropriate. I'm just driven to do these videos. Okay. So have you ever been driven? We like to think of driven as someone as being driven as a very good thing. Well, they're driven towards ambition. They're driven to do this, or they're just driven. There was a show on television that was called Driven at one time, and we see how people are so driven to do certain things. Well, it's not all. It is. That's a good example of driven when it's to a positive thing, but there's another example when people are driven. You're driven to a person. You're driven. You are so in love that you are just driven. Crackheads is driven to get crack. When you're on alcohol, or you have an obsession, you're just driven to that obsession. So that's an example when being driven is not such a good thing. So there's another example as well is when you're being driven by someone. When you're actually when you gotta work for someone and they just keep driving you. Now there's a good example if you're driven by a coach, and so they're pointing you in the right direction and driving you onto that. That's another example of being driven. Okay, but there's also driven by a worker who just keeps working you. That's another example. The slave owners really drove somebody. I mean, you can really drive somebody down. Like on a car, if you get in a car, you just floor it. You just drive the heck out of that car. A lot of people will drive animals. They'll just, if you have a man against a beast, they will drive that down. There's a situation where Jesus was on a colt of a lamb, a colt of an ass, which is an animal, a beast, and he drove the animal. The beast had never, or the animal, the young colt, had never been trained. And so, they're stubborn. They're very, very stubborn. And so Jesus actually had this on Palm Sunday, had this animal, and they said, bring it to the master. And so there's a bit of a symbolism there. When Jesus got on there, the colt behaved. It behaved. And so it literally didn't buck or give Jesus a hard time, and Jesus drove the animal. Jesus can do that with our wild nature as a man. That was the symbolism in that. There's another sample that I just want to bring up, my personal example. I don't drive. I don't actually know how to drive. I never learned, I was going to learn, but I moved to New York, and then I didn't have time or didn't need to learn. So when I'm back here, I really need to learn, but I've just been so long that it's very difficult for me to do something new like that, or it's just I haven't done it, and so I'm not really that driven. But every time I go for the bus, and when I was in New York, I had this natural thing that I can go to the train and the train would come. But here, I go to the bus and I walk, and no matter what, I always seem, the bus got to come all the way across town and then get to where I am, and it always seemed to pass me just as I get to the point where I can see the bus. So I can walk right down the block, go across, and go back, and that bus will go flying by. Because I won't break out of this habit. The Lord is just driving me with this. He's driving me. And I get frustrated, but no matter what, I say, okay, it'll be all right. No matter what. And even on a Sunday, even on a Sunday, and the buses don't run. You don't even see a bus. It'll be a bus. It seems like it just wait until I get there and go flying by. And so I just feel like I'm being driven down by this thing. I got to learn how to drive. Because Buffalo is slow. It's not how it used to be. They don't have that many buses. But that's being driven. I feel like the Lord is trying to tell me, you better learn how to drive, and I ain't gonna get off your case until you do. And it's almost hilarious. I mean, it's so bad, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't do nothing. I try, and there ain't nothing. So I'm being driven in a certain direction, and by the Lord. The Lord can drive you. And sometimes you ain't nothing you can do about it. You just got to give in, give up, whatever. It just ain't going to happen right now. You got to do it his way or else. You ain't going to be doing nothing. There's also, my last example of this is there's a verse in the Bible, and I never really looked it up, and I probably should look it up now, but I'm not going to. When Satan came against God, he had drove him down. He had drove him down. Not only, they said, the people give the devil more credit than he's due. Jesus said, I saw Satan fall to the earth in a flashlight. It was literally like that. He came against God, and it was like, pow, the next thing he knew, he was falling to the earth. It wasn't even an argument. There was a part where some other said God drove him in disgrace. Go check it somewhere. I'm not exactly sure because I tend to read things and retain it. I internalize it, but it literally said God drove him in disgrace. Now that's one thing. I remember one time somebody stole some money from me. And I went after them, and I just I just whipped their tail all the way home, because, we were young. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what was one of my brothers. All right, but still, we were young, and I was working, and I just I wanted to teach them, that this is very, very bad, and this will not lead you in the right direction. And if you keep stealing, it's gonna land you in jail. There's nothing good about it. I don't care if you steal from your brother. They got people on TV right now being disgraced. I saw this show. They were being disgraced because they got caught on cam for stealing and doing all kind of wacky, busted and disgusted. They were doing all kind of nasty stuff. I mean, I can't even talk about it. I go off on that. But they were doing all this stuff because they thought nobody was watching. We tend to do that. We think we can get away with anything because we feel like nobody's watching. Well, God sees you. And you know what? So anyway, the devil, God drove the devil. And it's one thing to drove somebody down, but to disgrace them in the process. And that's so bad. It's so sad sometimes because what people do in darkness often comes to light. It often comes to light. I mean, I gotta watch what I do. I gotta have limits. I gotta have borders. Every man has to do that. Every man, people say judge not lest you be judged. No, it also says judge yourself. Judge yourself. At some point you say, no, maybe I better not do this. Lest you be disgraced. How many times we have people trying to do stuff and slicking something by, and then all of a sudden they caught, and it's all up in the news, and they thought they had gotten away. That's being driven in disgrace. It's one thing to be driven, but it's another thing to be disgraced. Now they're trying to drive this bill through the Senate. As I think it's, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop. But right now, I'm looking at Pat and said, wait a minute, I should pay him to play this. This is ridiculous. I can't hear it. This is an insult to government. That's what we were trying to tell you, but Malachi, shut the doors. Okay, so you know what? Right now, you need to be paying attention. You know, the issue, this is, right after this at Power Struggle, I'll put the link on this. And then, they also mention the same-sex bill. Don't think they're not related. This is what I connect the dots. And I be connecting dots that be like this, and you got to turn around like this. But this is like this and this. This bill is up. There's a coup. There's not a coup, but they're in their rightful law. They locked the doors to the Senate, and you think prayer don't work? You don't think that this is related? Only a fool says in his heart that there is no God. Read the writing on the wall. You think this is bad. You keep going. It's just going to get worse. I'm telling you. God don't let, he don't, if he says something, then it'll keep it, he's not there fighting it every time. As he says it and he can walk away, it's still going to turn out the way he said it. His will be done. If you do this, you think you got something bad now. This is serious.